Okay, hello everyone, I'm back. Today I wanted to talk about how to not let other people's opinions bother you. Let me move my chair. Okay, so how many times has someone said something to you and it lingered through your mind for hours, for days, maybe even years? I don't know. A lot of people have different experiences with this. But I just wanted to say that a lot of people think that we only carry the words that someone has said to us or the judgments that someone has, put upon us. And the truth is that we actually carry the literal emotional weight of someone's critiques or of someone's judgments. And when someone says something that kind of hurts us or makes us like, oh, am I really like that? We internalize, which means like we take it and kind of identify ourselves with it instead of, what we could actually be doing, which I'll talk about later in the video. And we just internalize the opinions of others because we have insecurities. Like if you have, I don't know, I feel like when I talk about this, a lot of it comes down to, how my skin looks. I've always had a problem with acne and stuff, and I feel like a lot of different people can relate with this as well. But whenever someone were to say something about my skin, I was always like, oh my gosh, like it is really that bad if someone's really talking about it. And obviously I on my own personal journey, I still have problems with that because, acne is a very, honestly, it is a lot about your health, but acne is a very spiritual journey as well because it's very personal and it's about exactly what I'm going to talk about in this video. So, when someone says something that kind of hurts us, it feels like a literal attack to that insecurity that we have. So like for me, if someone were to say something about my acne, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I feel so hurt right now, but why? A lot of people are like, oh, why am I like this? They get to a certain point in their mind where they're just sick of letting other people's opinions affect them so much. People go years and years without even realizing this. And it really, when we're talking spiritually, it really comes down to the ego, which is the part of ourselves that thrives on validation or acceptance. And the ego is constantly seeking comparison and it's constantly seeking recognition. And the truth is, the ego is really just an illusion. But I feel like that's a very, a whole separate video I could make. So, the more that you identify your entire self with your ego and your insecurities, and, the more you identify with all the opinions that you've internalized from other people, the more you're gonna hurt from other people's opinions. So the ego craves approval because the ego thinks that how someone judges us or how someone approves of us or disapproves of us defines who we are as a person, or defines, we think that our ego, has complete control over us in some aspects, but the truth is that when your ego is hurt and you react, you express yourself in ways that can hurt others, you can, you are just giving your own personal power away to external forces. So what that means is when you are hurt about someone attacking one of your insecurities, you lash out, or you're like, you talk down to someone that gave you that judgment because it hurt you. So now you feel like you have to hurt this other person, which necessarily is not a good thing to do. So please don't do that if you're watching this, because you will maybe unintentionally hurt so many people by doing that. Because when you say things out of anger and hurt, it might not always be true. So when your ego craves approval, it believes who we are is defined by how others see us. So I have my little notepad today. I have a bunch of stuff to talk about. But when we give our power away to external forces, we are literally like, my dog's barking. Sorry guys. We are giving our power away to external forces. I'm gonna use that as to just leave that message alone. That my dog barking. So I wanted to talk about how to start actually healing this problem, because this issue is very, prominent in a lot of people's lives, and even mine. So I think that the best way, from what I figured out at least, is to start practicing detachment or non-attachment, which is basically to start observing or seeing your literal reactions to when you get criticism, to when you get judged, to when you get your insecurities attacked, when you feel that kind of like, ugh, like, why would someone say that about me, But I think the whole point to it is realizing that your ego is like, your insecurities and ego are in a lot of, oh my gosh, how am I gonna word this? I can't word it right now. Your ego and insecurity is like a very deep, prominent reason why we react out or we lash out at people, because we're hurt. There's parts of us and very deep insecurities that we have that we've internalized years ago and still identify ourselves with. So practicing non-attachment is basically to see your reactions, but also think about how you can not react the next time that something happens, or try not to internalize it. Like, don't identify yourself with what someone said about you, because in all honesty, that does not define who you are as a person. And when someone says something about you, it doesn't have to be this thing where you take it and you're like, oh my gosh, am I really like this? Because it's most likely not true. So what I've found that helps me the most with this is to see these, judgments or criticisms that someone has against us as like passing clouds, like just clouds that, move in the sky. It doesn't have to become your reality, these judgments, these criticisms, unless you are giving it that power in your life. So what you're giving power to, you are choosing. So my explanation for that is basically, if someone says something to you like, oh, you're so annoying, you take that and you're like, wow, I must really be annoying if someone verbalized it. But on the other hand, you could be like, annoying, gone. Sometimes people will say things to you like, oh, you're so annoying. And that reflects their own insecurities. They don't want to be seen as annoying. They don't want to not be approved by others because they don't want to be annoying. They don't want to be themselves. They don't want to be loud, and they don't want to take up space. So, I don't know. I just feel like I have to say, like, you're allowed to take up space as a person. You exist on this earth, and that's all the right you need to take up space. It doesn't matter about anyone else's opinions of you. It doesn't matter. None of it matters, because a lot of people take their ego and don't even realize, like, you can do better things and use your ego as a way to have more wisdom in your life. And a lot of it also comes down to having compassion for others, because this might not be something you want to hear, honestly, because when I had this first thought, I was like, oh my gosh, why would I want to sympathize with people that made me feel hurt? Why would I want to, whatever. But where a lot of people go wrong is where, the ego gets hurt, right? And then we build this resentment against this person, because it's like, this person to you, now you identify them as this person that's hurt you, instead of, just another person. I'm not saying, let people cross your boundaries, because obviously there's a line between being disrespected and, letting things affect you. So where you don't feel respected, please leave, obviously. But when your ego gets hurt, you build this secret animosity or this like resentment against that person, and then you go and hurt other people, which is something you don't want to do, because for obvious reasons, hurting other people can affect their lives in ways you would never know. And also, the ego just wants approval, and if you don't get that from others, your ego will starve. But the truth is, every time that you are getting judgment or criticism, you can either take that judgment, criticism, and throw it away, or you could take it and try to turn it into this, internal thing where you're learning from it. If you're in a situation like a relationship and someone's telling you, you're so stupid for staying here, you're letting yourself be disrespected, obviously you can take that and kind of consider that, because these are people that are trying to help you. But that's a whole other video also. I could talk about that in another video if anyone needs that. But a lot of people go wrong with this, that they don't learn to have that compassion for others after being hurt. But the truth is that compassion is very, very essential for even ourselves and others too. So when we stop caring what other people think or other people's opinions, we plant the seed of compassion. We start growing that compassion for other people. The people that project their insecurities onto us because we're taking up so much space. We're so loud, we're so this, we're so that. That's who you are. And if you're loud and you take up space, you can't let someone be like, oh, well, you can't be loud and you can't take up space. It's exactly what you're doing. Who cares? That person hates it because they can't do that and not feel insecure about it. They can't be loud and they can't take up space and they can't be themselves without feeling like someone else is going to be like, oh, why'd you do that? Da, da, da. That's not who you are. Da, da, da. But, most judgments are more about the other person's insecurities than yours. So it reflects their unhealed wounds. It reflects their hurt. So people's projections or criticisms or judgments of you speaks more about their person than it does about you. because you can take these insecurities that you have and fix those things. But these people are usually very insufferable in their own inner world, or don't even take the time to reflect on just things like that, you know. People don't, you know, just sit down and reflect and be like, what I said could have hurt that person, you know. But to release resentment and gain the inner peace that you want, just remind yourself to practice empathy, because a lot of people, or not a lot of people, everyone is on their own personal journeys. They're on their own personal spiritual journeys. They're on their own personal life journeys, whatever you want to call it. Everyone's on their own healing journeys, and maybe that person hasn't realized where their insecurities are deeply rooted, or where their insecurities show the most, or, you know, things like that. And in all honesty too, there's a lot of healing and a lot of wisdom that comes along with realizing these things, but also the opinions of other people could also be sent to you to experience, just to see if you can be distracted from your own spiritual journey or your own path in life. They send these experiences to you to see if it'll shake you up this time, or if you finally learned, you know, have you truly learned this lesson to not internalize other people's opinions of you. So I guess my final message is to just saying, like, let go of the control that people's words have on you, because at the end of the day, they're also just words. They don't have much meaning unless you give it that power to the words. So a lot of the people that have these problems, they don't feel accepted, they don't feel loved, they don't feel like they're enough. But I guess I'm here to just say, like, you guys are already so loved, you guys are already so enough. You guys are allowed to take up so much space. You're allowed to just be who you are, as you are, fully and authentically and honestly and unapologetically. Because when you are walking as this person that isn't authentically you, you will never walk in peace. You won't. You will not walk in peace. So the control that people's words have on you also comes down to you choosing where you are giving your power to external forces. So everybody has their own ways of learning, you know, in their spiritual journey. So if you feel like, you know, what I said might not resonate with you, just take it and think about it for a little bit. Consider what might be true for you, you know, whatever. But I hope that all you guys walk in peace, and know that other people's opinions of you shouldn't affect you deeper than your own faith in your path in life. So yeah, I feel like that's a good way to end the video. So please comment, please interact with me. I'd love to meet some of you guys. And I don't know, comment, give me some struggles that you have, and I'll try to make a video for that if you guys need help with anything. If you guys would like to become friends with me, you can always DM me on Instagram too, or follow me on Instagram. I'll probably follow you back. It's the same name as my YouTube, my Instagram. So thank you for watching, everyone, and subscribe if you like. I don't care. Bye. Thank you.